In the word become are the words be and come. When you choose to just be, you're tuned into now, and now is all that there really is. You're not concerned with coming. The past and the future are just illusions, and when you're tuned in to the present, you're opening yourself up to receiving the gifts life has to offer you. Just be. Hi, I'm Johnny Troth. I troth myself eternally to your service, and I'm your friend. Hit the follow on my page to improve your life and the world. And those are the same things, because when you improve your life, you improve the world. I'm about to do my second reading of Real Magic by Wayne Dyer. And I want to ask you real quick first, have you seen the movie Eddie the Eagle? That's a great movie. It's about a guy who knew from when he was just a little kid that he was destined to compete in the Olympics. And he ends up becoming a ski jumper in the Olympics. It's very inspiring. Have you seen the video yet? The YouTube video? Steve Harvey, Family Feud, Jump, YouTube. Even if you have seen it, I recommend you search for that and watch it. If you've seen it already, I recommend you watch it again. It's 6 minutes long. And Steve Harvey also wrote a great book called Jump. You've got to try to live. Jump into the life that you want. In his book, it's an autobiography, pretty much. He talks about when he formed the Kings of Comedy. Before that, he was homeless. He was living in his car. He was poor. He had no money. And he takes you through the whole process of him becoming a star. It's a great movie. I highly recommend that first watch the YouTube Family Feud Steve Harvey Jump 6 minute long video. And then get the book from Steve Harvey called Jump, that's most likely available at your public library. And then watch the movie Eddie the Eagle. And when Eddie the Eagle is hitting the big jump, the big ski jump at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, when he's soaring for like 300 feet, you can see yourself taking off and flying into the life that you were put here on earth to be. Doesn't that sound like a fun night? After you read the book, would be my recommendation. It's called Jump by Steve Harvey. And you think, about how you're going to jump into your life. When you're not reading the book and you think about things you want to jump into, write them down. Put them in order of importance. And then think about your one thing. The next one on your list. Because as Curly says in the movie City Slickers, everything else don't mean shit. Except for your one thing. Real Magic, Part 1. Creating an inner path for real magic. Chapter 1. A transcendent view of magic and miracles. Here's a quote by Saint Francis of Assisi. I have been all things unholy. If God can work through me, God can work through anyone. I replaced he with God in that quote. According to the illustrious magician Harry Houdini, magic is achieved through illusion. A simple example is an illusion created by using smoke and mirrors. The illusion is called magic simply because it, italicized, appears to be unexplainable. Late in his career, though, Houdini alluded to something that he experienced, which he called, quote, real magic. He apparently had acquired the ability to produce results that were in fact unexplainable. These magical results could not be accounted for even as the product of illusion. I chose the title of this book because I became attracted to the paradox inherent in those two words, italicized, real magic. You, like most people, are probably convinced that if something is real, it cannot be magic. And if it's magic, it can't be real. However, it's my belief that when we get caught in this paradox, we're inhibited from experiencing our magical dimensions. I believe that we experience real magic when we transcend the paradox, and that the transcendent view encompasses the experience of real magic as indeed very real and also magical. In the past several years, says Wayne Dyer, my life has, as this book was published in 1992, in the past several years, my life has undergone a magnificent transformation. I find myself on a path leading to levels of awareness and results that I can only describe as miraculous. They are simply unexplainable in any other terms. I'm convinced that there's another realm to experience when we are ready to go beyond this life to which we have become accustomed. This other realm defies our laws of science and logic. It's a place within each of us that's free of ordinary boundaries, rules, and limitations. This is not some wonderland that's available only in imagination. It's magically real and available to each person when he or she is ready. I can't explain how or why I've arrived at this place in my life. I'm surprised I'm talking about it. It simply feels as if experiencing and writing about real magic is my purpose or mission at this time in my life. Regardless of explanations, I find that I am filled with awe and respect for this unexpected part of my life path. I'm intrigued with Leo Tolstoy, in part because of what I see as parallels between his life and mine. Leo Tolstoy, I think that's referring to, I think his favorite Leo Tolstoy thing is the morning of your life, the afternoon of your life, and the evening of your life. And when you open yourself, I'm talking off the book, when you're expanding your consciousness enough to see these things that he's talking about, you're in the afternoon of your life. You're more ethnocentric. You're more concerned about other people than yourself because you know you're good now. And it's time for you to help as many other people as you can. In the afternoon of your life, you know what you want. And you're ready to go get it. It's ready to come to you. What you want wants you as much as you want it. Know that. What you want wants you just as much as you want it. The same amount. Back to the book. I'm intrigued with Leo Tolstoy, in part because of what I see as parallels between his life and mine. He was a famous author during his lifetime, and a man who had spent much of his life in hedonistic pursuits. One who had no spiritual bent in his early writings, but witnessed in his own life a shift that seemed to be happening to him without his consent. His writing began to reflect a spiritual quality, and he wrote of the journey of the soul and the world of real magic, yet he was uncertain about why or how this transformation had taken place. Recently, a copy of a handwritten portion of Tolstoy's will, written by him 20 years before his death, was given to me by a woman who is one of the world's leading experts on Russian literature. In this will, Tolstoy described how he felt about his life's work, which is precisely how I feel as I contemplate my own. Insert. Furthermore, and in particular, I ask all people near and far not to praise me. I know they will do so because they have done so in my lifetime in the most unseemly ways. But if they want to study my writings, let them look carefully at those passages in them in which I know the power of God spoke through me, and make use of them for their own lives. There have been times when I felt I was becoming the bearer of God's will. I have often been so impure, so full of personal passions, that the light of this truth has been obscured by my own darkness. But nevertheless, this truth has sometimes passed through me. And these have been the happiest moments of my life. God grant that these truths should not have been defiled in passing through me, and that people might feed on them despite the superficial and impure form which I have given them. End quote. That's gold right there. That's gold. I want to read that quote again real quick, okay? I just want to read it one more time. I ask all people, I'm going to summarize it a little bit as I'm reading. I ask all people near and far to praise me. If you want to study my writings, look carefully at the passages in which I know the power of God spoke through me, and make use of them for your own lives. Sometimes I feel becoming I'm becoming the bearer of God's will. I've often been so impure, so full of personal passions, that the light of this truth has been obscured by my own darkness. Nevertheless, this truth has sometimes passed through me, and these have been the happiest moments of my life. God grants that these truths will not be defiled in passing through me. I will them to you. And that people might feed on them, despite the superficial and impure form which I've given them. And so too, back to the book, and so too this unexpected turn, says Wayne Dyer, that my own life has taken has occurred almost without my consent. I had no grand plan. I had no such goals or objectives for my life. What I did have was a willingness and openness to seeing things another way. Now that I have been a witness to miracles in my own personal life, I feel compelled to share this new magical awareness. Perhaps you've been drawn to this book by the same natural flow of life that has motivated me to write about real magic. And perhaps you've been drawn to this video if you're watching it, or this audio if you're listening to it, that I, Johnny Steele, am making for you. By the same natural flow of life that has motivated Wayne Dyer to write the book that I'm reading right now called Real Magic. Centered, capitalized, italicized. 3 paths toward enlightenment. Wayne Dyer says, as I look back at the entire tapestry of my life, I can see from the perspective of the present moment that every aspect of my life was necessary and perfect. Each step led eventually to a higher place, even though these steps often felt like obstacles or painful experiences. Every successful, truly happy person that I have encountered has confirmed their knowing that there simply are no accidents. They see the universe as all purposeful, including the so-called accidents. All agree that every unique happening in our lives leads us to a higher place. As Henry Miller said, quote, the world is italicized not to be put in order. The world, italicized, is the order. The world is order. Incarnate. I gotta look up that word now. There's one other thing I want to do real quick. Incarnate definition. Incarnate means especially of a deity or spirit embodied in flesh, in human form. Embody or represent a deity or spirit in human form. Put an idea or other abstract concept into concrete form of a person. Be the living embodiment of a quality. One who incarnates the suffering which had, no, I don't want to read that. A desire to make things which will incarnate their personality. Leo Tolstoy, Afternoon of Your Life. Afternoon of Your Life. Come on. Alright. The microphone thing isn't liking me right now very much. Let me try it one time. Afternoon of Your Life. Okay. A-F-T, Afternoon of Life. Go. Leo Tolstoy's, quote, Afternoon of Life, or later years, were marked by a profound spiritual crisis and a search for meaning, leading him to embrace Christian anarchism and pacifism. This period saw him questioning the conventional values of Russian society and grappling with issues of faith, morality, and the purpose of existence. Spiritual crisis. Tolstoy experienced a deep sense of disillusionment with his life as a wealthy nobleman and celebrated author. He questioned the meaning of life and found himself drawn to the simple ethical teachings of Jesus, particularly the Sermon on the Mount. Turned to Christianity. This led him to adopt a form of Christian anarchism and pacifism, advocating for nonviolence and a rejection of worldly power and possessions. Focus on service. Tolstoy believed that the purpose of life was to serve others and to find joy in acts of kindness and compassion. He emphasized living in the present moment and dedicating each action to service. Critique of society. He criticized the social structures and values of his time, including the pursuit of wealth and ambition, which he believed distracted people from true happiness and spiritual fulfillment, according to a Reddit post. Influence on art. Tolstoy's later works, such as The Kingdom of God is Within You, reflected his spiritual and philosophical views, while also critiquing the perceived hypocrisy of established institutions and religious practices, according to Wikipedia. Legacy. Tolstoy's later life and writings had a significant impact on various social and political movements, including the Russian Revolution and the development of nonviolent resistance. Wow. Huh. What was Tolstoy's spiritual quote? Rummaging in our souls, we often dig up something that ought to have lain there unnoticed. When you love someone, you love the person as they are, and not as you'd like them to be. In the name of God, stop a moment, cease your work, look around you. I could go on, there's lots more about Leo Tolstoy here. I'm going to get back to the book now. Continuing with 3 paths toward enlightenment. Okay, as Wayne Dyer looks back, you can see from the perspective of the present moment that every aspect of his life was necessary and perfect. Each step led eventually to a higher place, even though these steps often felt like obstacles or painful experiences. Every successful, truly happy person has encountered their knowing that there simply are no accidents. They see the universe as all purposeful, including the so-called accidents. All agree that every unique happening leads to a higher place. As Henry Miller said, quote, the world is italicized not to be put in order. The world, italicized, is order incarnate. It is for us to put ourselves in unison with this order, end quote. Begin right now to reconsider your entire life experience as a beautiful tapestry or journey toward greater awareness. A simple way to do this is to envision your life as a journey with 3 ascending paths. 1. Enlightenment through suffering. It's all in capital letters, so I'm going to say it again. Enlightenment through suffering. On the first path of your journey, you learn through a process I call, italicized, enlightenment through suffering. At this time of life, which has nothing to do with chronological age, you ask, quote, why me? You're the victim. I'm talking off the book. You have the victim programming. Why me? I'm a victim. Why am I a victim? You're not going to get anywhere as a victim. You're supposed to learn from that. Stop being a victim. Stop right now. You are not a victim. It's all happened for you. Back to the book. Quote, why me? When something occurs that is painful or difficult. If it involves, for instance, the unwanted breakup of a relationship, you spend your present moment suffering and wondering how and why such a disaster could have befallen you. After a while, as you recover, you're able to look back and say, quote, now I know why I had to go through that breakup. And you see, with the benefit of hindsight and suffering, that it allowed you to move on to another life experience of great value. From the perspective of looking backward, you realize that you had to experience the pain in order to transcend it. And on that, I want to say real quick, if you get fired, then it's the best thing that could have happened to you. Because you're not supposed to be working there. You're wasting your life working there. You don't like working there. That's why you got fired. Now you can go find something that you do like and how to get paid for that. Back to the book. This is the pattern of growth for many people. Events occur, suffering takes place, and then the light appears. These events can happen in virtually all areas of one's life. Addictions, bankruptcies, illnesses, spiritual emptiness, layoffs, tax problems, and anything in between. The experience is one of learning through hindsight by repeating this pattern of suffering over and over. Some people continue this cycle throughout their entire lifetime. They never move up from the first path and never experience the higher ground of enlightenment. They literally spend their lives suffering, and then a long time down the road, they may or may not see that an event was necessary and that it was a test for them at the time. They never seem to get the message that life gives exams, and unless you learn from your mistakes, you are doomed to repeat them. For some, life is spent in asking, quote, why me, God? Why is this happening to me? For persons in this category, real magic remains unavailable. 2, all in capital letters, enlightenment through outcome. Enlightenment through outcome. If you recognize the first path as a pattern in your life, then you probably have moved past suffering as your means to learning, to italicize, enlightenment through outcome. At this level, you learn to stop asking, quote, why me, God? You develop a knowing that says, quote, there are no accidents. Everything I am experiencing is in some way necessary for me to move ahead to the next step, end quote. How many times, I'm saying off the book real quick, how many times have you heard the cliche, everything happens for a reason? Everything happens for a reason. It's called a cliche because people have heard it so many times that it doesn't mean much to them anymore. Think about it, but think about it. It doesn't mean much to them anymore, but think about it. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. If you truly embody that and live that, then when life school gives you the tests, you'll pass with flying colors. When a graduation event happens in your life, you will recognize it. A graduation event, such as the death of a loved one, can be very painful if you're still stuck in victim mode and why me. However, the death of a loved one could be a very big graduation event in your life. When you see that everything happens for a reason, and you're able to remember the good that this person has brought into your life, how this person has helped you, and then you're able to focus on, think about, and write down, ask yourself, questions are the steering wheel of the mind. So ask yourself, what is great about the death of this loved one? If everything happens for a reason, then what are the reasons? What's great about this? And then you can start to write them down. They're no longer suffering. They are now reunited with the souls of their dead loved ones. Their spirit now lives within me all the time and helps me, guides me. Now I can remember better the good that this person has done for me. And when you can write down, when you have your list of 10 things that are great about the death of that loved one, then you've aced that graduation event. You have graduated on to another level of consciousness. And you're ready to live into your purpose, your big why. Your major definite purpose, your burning desires. Back to the book. Enlightenment through outcome. There are no accidents. Everything I am experiencing is in some way necessary for me to move ahead to the next step. Rather than asking, why me? Ask, what is in this experience that I can use in a beneficial way, even if I don't understand why it's happening right now? This is a shift of paramount significance. When you are focused in your mind on what you can learn from an experience, your mind cannot dwell on thoughts that will lead you to more suffering. Thoughts such as, why me? Isn't this terrible? and I'm so unlucky. The shift in your mind allows you to look at the outcome of an event or experience and what you can learn from it. Instead of a poor me approach, you shift to a learning approach. You ask yourself, quote, how can I create the outcome that I want with this illness that I am presently experiencing? Or, quote, what can I learn about myself and how much strength can I muster to deal effectively with this problem? I just thought of one more thing I want to say here about what I was saying before. And it's that there are lots of cultures out there in the world, probably in India somewhere, where they celebrate the death of a loved one. Everyone's so happy at the funeral. They know how to put the fun in funeral. They're celebrating the death. There's not one, I mean, they may be crying, but they're all tears of joy. They're all tears of joy because now they know that their soul is free. Also, by the way, another little off-topic tangent here. Probably in these same cultures, probably in like India or around there, the Far East, they don't have words like hate. They wouldn't even, because they don't have words like hate, they wouldn't even think, why me? There's no victims over there. They're all just loving life. They probably don't even have violence and murders because they don't even think, they don't have those words in the vocabulary either. Violence, murder, what is that? I don't know. I'm just happy. Most of them live well into their hundreds. Hundreds. Most of them live well past 100 years. And they're just living their lives, growing their food, loving their people, loving life, loving the stream, the babbling brook, the fish that they cook on their open flame. With gratitude, living life in gratitude and peace and harmony, uniting in community. Doesn't that all sound pretty good? Back to the book. Instead of poor me, the shift in your mind allows you to look at the outcome of an event or experience and what you can learn from it. Instead of a poor me approach, you shift to a learning approach. You ask yourself, quote, how can I create the outcome that I want with this illness that I am presently experiencing? Or, quote, what can I learn about myself and how much strength can I muster to deal effectively with this problem? Many people spend their entire lifetime on this second path. They are beyond suffering as a lifestyle. They are always asking, quote, what will the outcome be for me? These are the goal-oriented people focused on quotas and specific ambitions, which they work toward assiduously. They see obstacles as opportunities. Living at outcome is far superior to living at suffering. It gives one's life focus and keeps one motivated to set higher and higher goals. It virtually eliminates the suffering born of self-pity, For many people who are living their lives at outcome, there can be no higher place. They are centered on outcome. And when it's achieved, they look for newer and grander results. What's missing in their lives, however, is the possibility of experiencing real magic and the ability to make miracles happen. For this, one needs to go to the third path on this metaphoric journey. 3. Enlightenment through purpose. Enlightenment through purpose. I just want to say, I'm so glad that Wayne Dyer figured out real quick, because in his first, I think it was his second book, Pulling Your Own Strings. His first book was goes like, I think it's his first real book that he wrote because he wanted to. Not, it doesn't have to be an MLA style like what they made him to write and approved by whatever. The first book that he wrote because he wanted to, Erroneous Zones. And definitely, in I think his second book, Pulling Your Own Strings, he liked to say man a lot. And I remember that because when I read Pulling Your Own Strings that my mom had to replace, I crossed out man and put in like one or something like that. A lot. And she's like, "Why you ruined my book?" I'm like, "Nah, I made it better, Mom." I'm glad that Wayne Dyer figured that out real quick. Okay. 3. Enlightenment through purpose. Quote, "Nothing is more likely to help a person overcome or endure troubles than the consciousness of having a task in life," is a quote from Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl wrote these words. Viktor Frankl wrote those words. "Nothing is more likely to help a person overcome or endure troubles than the consciousness of having a task in life." End quote. Viktor Frankl wrote those words as he endured the insanity and brutality of a Nazi concentration camp at Auschwitz during the Second World War. Learning that you have a heroic mission and getting in step with that mission is the third step, is the third path that I am encouraging you to take as you begin to introduce real magic into your life. I call this path, italicized, enlightenment through purpose. Enlightenment through purpose. Everything in the universe has a purpose. Indeed, the invisible intelligence that flows through everything is a purposeful fashion. And indeed, the invisible intelligence that flows through everything in a purposeful fashion is also flowing through you. In order to experience real magic, it's necessary to make a dramatic shift from outcome to purpose. You begin accomplishing this by viewing your presence here from a new perspective. Give this new way of thinking about yourself a brief try and see if it makes sense and feels right. If you feel this is absurd and not something that works for you, go back to outcome or learning via suffering. Centered, capitalized, italicized, bold-faced, getting to purpose, getting to purpose. How are you getting to your purpose? How are you getting to your purpose? If you're not there, if you haven't figured it out yet, you know what? I'm going to tell you here, this is me talking right now. It took me about 44 years to figure out my purpose. I'm 49 right now. I'll be 50 in a little bit. A few months. I'll be 50. It took me 44 years to figure out my purpose. It took me about 44 years to figure out my purpose. And the way I had to figure it out was through about 4 years of nothing but learning. I got hooked on self-development, and that's what I did for like 4 years, living off of the income from my rental property. That's all that I did. Sometimes for like 16 hours a day, I was reading and listening and watching all that's available out there and doing what they suggested. Making my appreciation lists, making my list of I ams, things that I want to be and living into them. Thinking about my goals and my values, making my list of values, writing them down. And after doing all these kinds of things, doing what they recommend in the book, thinking about what would be a perfect day for me today? What's my perfect day? What do I want to be in a year, 2, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Before the end of my life, what do I want to accomplish while I'm here in this body? I figured it out. That's what it took for me to figure it out. And I'll tell you what it is. Before I tell you what it is, I believe very much that it's very important to know who you are and to be able to say it in less than 10 words. And the first 2 words are probably going to be I am. And I can do mine in 4 words. I am the connector. The connector has 2 meanings for me. The first meaning is I connect people with their higher power, and through that, help them figure out the reason for them to be here. And I connect people with other people who are good for them. I get to know people at higher levels of consciousness, and I know what they do and what they like. And then when 2 people know and like and have similar values and goals, I say, I get them on a phone call together. I say, hey, I have someone who I want to talk with you. Let me get them on this call. And then we're all talking together. And that's what I do. And it took me 44 years to figure out, because not many people want to do that stuff. First of all, everyone tells you that you have to work for certainty. You have to get the money at the fast food restaurant or the cubicle or the grocery store for certainty. So I had to figure out that what you want to do is work for joy through my reading. And nobody's like, hey, you know what? You want to be a connector. No one has ever said that to me. How are you supposed to figure that out? That's why it took me 44 years. So let's get back to this inspiration so I can continue connecting you to your higher power and your reason for being here, which is what I'm doing with this reading right now, which is why I'm posting it for you. Back to the book. Examine what you thought about at the time that something happened in your life that you didn't like, what you felt, whom you admired. How much of what you experienced then led you to where you are today? Now, go back 10 more years in your mind and see how each and every experience and learning led you to the next place and the next place until you again arrive at today. Examine what you thought about. when something happened that you didn't like, how you dressed, what you felt, whom you admired. How much of what you experienced then led you to where you are today? Now, go back 10 more years in your mind and see how each and every experience and learning led you to the next place and the next place until you again arrive at today. Thoughts are the steering wheel of the mind. Thoughts are the steering wheel of the mind. That's a Peter Sage quote. I got it from Peter Sage. I heard it from him. I don't know how many other people said it, if anyone else has said it, but it's a great Peter Sage quote. Thoughts are the steering wheel of the mind. And everything begins with a thought. Johnny Troth quote. Everything begins with a thought. Every single thing. This phone, the house you live in, you. It all begins with a thought, even emotions. And then they bounce off of each other and they build on each other. If you let them. Hopefully they're good thoughts and emotions that are bouncing off of and building on each other. That's your choice. You can always choose. Back to the book. If you are candid, you will discover that each experience in your life was absolutely necessary in order to have gotten you to the next place and the next, up until this very moment. This mental exercise is very useful in developing your ability to contemplate and meditate. Ultimately, you can go back to being a child again in your mind. You will see that the childhood experiences, whatever they are, helped that little person you were to become a bigger person. You will see that the childhood experiences, whatever they are, helped that little person you were to become a bigger person and eventually the adult that you are today. I'm not asking you to judge, to like or dislike, to approve or disapprove. Simply see that each experience led to the next and offered you something to either grow on or not grow on. You had to have those experiences, and the evidence for that point of view is that you did. Pure and simple, you did! Exclamation mark. You did. Then you moved to the next experience and the next, all intertwined in some invisible way, and all leading to now. You may have been at suffering. You may have been at outcome. And you still had those experiences. And nothing can ever change that. As you go backward in your mind to your childhood, from the perspective of the present moment, and earnestly look at all of your life experiences, the good and the bad, the terrible and the ecstatic, you begin to know right in this moment that there's some kind of invisible force running through your physical life that connects it all together. There is meaning in there someplace. And every single event of your life is in some way related to the next event. There's the person who seemed to come into your life in some coincidental way, who introduced you to someone else, who led you to something that turns your entire life around. You realize that without that coincidental stranger, you would not have met your lifetime partner, or created the children that you did, or gone to the school that you went to, or entered the business that became your way of life, or whatever. Little, seemingly unconnected and meaningless events viewed from the perspective of now all led you to this very moment, reading these words, hearing these words. As you traveled in your mind, you can go all the way back to your infancy, right back to your very beginning. You know in your rational mind that there was an instant, a speck of time in which you were conceived, where you won the race out of 400 billion participants. I got that metaphor from Peter Sage, another great one. He's got lots of them. You're a born winner. Keeping in mind the two essential components of this exercise, that eternity is a concept you can contemplate in a non-eternal body, and that the universe is purposeful and perfect. Mentally contemplate the speck of time immediately preceding your conception, when you were still part of eternity. The instant in eternity just before your parenthesis opened. Just before your parenthesis opened. There had to be such an instant when, for whatever reason, you came from what we call nothingness, no boundaries, no rules, no limits, no form, to somethingness. The question I pose to you is, quote, why? Why would you go from formless to form and show up in this human body to live for a period of time and then go back into eternity or formlessness? One could speculate all day on why such a journey is undertaken. Some believe that they made the choice to enter the physical world of limits and boundaries. Others see it as God's will. Still others see it as a monstrous, meaningless accident. Simply a cosmic coincidence. Whatever you choose to believe, you know it did happen. I suggest that your presence in the world of form has a grand mission, and that you can discover and begin thinking, feeling, and behaving in ways consistent with that mission. I, Wayne W. Dyer, have gone back in my meditations and discovered why I showed up in form, was conceived back in 1939. It seems very clear to me. I have asked God, or whatever you call that invisible part of ourselves, and I have received answers. I know my grand mission and what it's about for me. I accept that I was born in 1940 to accomplish certain things, and that each and every experience of my life since conception has led me to this purpose. I believe that I had and still have the power to choose to align myself with this perfect order, and that while I was misaligned, I was that way for a reason as well. My purpose has been clearly revealed to me through the process of prayer and meditation. Those are basically the same thing, prayer and meditation. Looking to whatever you want to call a higher power for your answers. After you get quiet, I'm talking off the book, after you get quiet and relaxed. The only way a prayer is going to work is if you take a deep breath and quiet and relax yourself first to get the answers. It's the same thing, praying and meditating, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. Back to the book. My purpose has been clearly revealed to me through the process of prayer and meditation. It matters not at all to me how others view my behavior in getting to purpose in my life. The knowing that I have has been revealed to me in the clearest and most profound manner. My purpose is to give, to serve, to promote peace and prosperity, and to become totally, unconditionally loving to all people. Willa Cather summarizes what I am writing about. Insert. Where there is great love, there are always miracles. miracles rest not so much upon faces or voices or healing power coming to us from afar off. They're on our perceptions being made finer, so that for a moment our eyes can see, our ears can hear, so that for a moment our eyes can see and our ears can hear what is there about us always. Unquote. Where there is great love, there are always miracles. Miracles rest not so much upon faces or voices or healing power coming to us from afar off. They rest on our perceptions. Miracles rest on our perceptions being made finer, so that for a moment our eyes can see and our ears can hear what is there about us always. End quote. I replace but with miracles rest on. I replace but with miracles rest. Yes, something is there about us always, is where I'll begin the next reading on page 11. In the word become are the words be and come. When you choose to just be, you're tuned into now, and now is all that there really is. You're not concerned with coming. The past and the future are just illusions, and when you're tuned in to the present, you're opening yourself up to receiving the gifts life has to offer you. Just be. Hi, I'm Johnny Troth. I troth myself eternally to your service, and I'm your friend. Hit the follow on my page to improve your life and the world. And those are the same things, because when you improve your life, you improve the world. I'm about to do my second reading of Real Magic by Wayne Dyer. And I want to ask you real quick first, have you seen the movie Eddie the Eagle? That's a great movie. It's about a guy who knew from when he was just a little kid that he was destined to compete in the Olympics. And he ends up becoming a ski jumper in the Olympics. It's very inspiring. Have you seen the video yet? The YouTube video? Steve Harvey, Family Feud, Jump, YouTube. Even if you have seen it, I recommend you search for that and watch it. If you've seen it already, I recommend you watch it again. It's 6 minutes long. And Steve Harvey also wrote a great book called Jump. You've got to try to live. Jump into the life that you want. In his book, it's an autobiography, pretty much. He talks about when he formed the Kings of Comedy. Before that,
Oops.
money. And he does of him becoming a star. It's a great movie. I highly recommend that first watch the YouTube Family Feud Steve Harvey Jump 6 minute long video.